On a winter night, near the end of the year 2025, on a snow-covered field close to the front in eastern Ukraine, a Russian air defense officer throws his head back and shouts into his radio that the target has been destroyed. He is convinced that his advanced air defense system has just intercepted another salvo of long-range Ukrainian missiles. In his mind, his regiment is perfectly safe inside a legendary radar bubble that stretches hundreds of kilometers. He has no idea that directly above him, dozens of Ukrainian kamikaze drones have been silently hovering for more than an hour, waiting for a single perfect moment to erase his entire unit. On the surface, everything seems to favor the Russians. For weeks, Ukrainian precision strikes have been hunting down and destroying forward air defense systems one by one, tearing open the protective layers that shielded Russian ground forces, leaving them almost naked under attack from above. The Kremlin is forced into a desperate gamble. It rushes several brand new S-400 systems into the area, the supposed crown jewels of Russian air defense, and parks them just a short distance from the front line to create a vast no-fly zone. If this works, the Ukrainian Air Force will be pinned down for the whole winter. Even the weather seems to be on Russia's side. The temperature has dropped well below freezing, and a thick layer of fog hangs just above the ground, hiding everything beneath it. To the Russian commanders, that fog is the perfect cloak, blinding enemy satellites and drones. They are sure they are the hunters, laying the ultimate trap. In reality, they have just driven an entire air defense regiment straight into a carefully prepared kill zone. The opening blow does not come from the drones waiting above, but from the horizon, spread out along a long strip of snow-covered forest. Ukrainian rocket launchers fire a coordinated salvo whose impact has been timed to land almost simultaneously. The first targets are not the S-400 batteries themselves, but the short-range air defense systems that are supposed to guard them. Russian radar operators do manage to detect the incoming rockets, but they are overwhelmed by the number and speed. The warheads burst in the air, showering the column with a storm of dense metal fragments that shred antennas, optical sensors, and the thin armored skins of the vehicles. Within seconds, most of Russia's close-range shield has been turned into charred metal hulks. Inside the S-400 command vehicles, warning lights flash as the system reports that its outer defenses have gone dark. In the middle of that confusion, the commander makes a decision that will decide the fate of his unit. He orders every battery to switch on its powerful engagement radar and prepare to fire at whatever is coming next. That is exactly what the Ukrainians wanted. From well behind the lines, a volley of ATACMS tactical missiles is launched. These are big, loud, and anything but subtle, climbing high into the sky and leaving clear tracks on radar. Inside the S-400 control cabins, operators cheer as they see the targets pop up clearly on their screens. At last, they have the chance to prove the power of the system that has been advertised as capable of shooting down both hypersonic missiles and stealth fighters. The launch tubes rise, and massive interceptor missiles leap from their canisters, tearing through the fog and punching into the night sky like spears of fire. The duel plays out high above the clouds. The ATACMS missiles plunge toward their targets at incredible speed, trying to dodge and weave out of the engagement envelope. But the guidance algorithms of the S-400 are just as ruthless. One by one, the incoming missiles are engaged and destroyed, great chunks of metal slamming into each other at enormous velocity, briefly turning the night sky into a flickering light show. Inside the Russian command vehicle, the crew erupts in celebration. Targets destroyed, shield intact. They are sure they have just closed the sky, but they have only bitten on the bait. To fire that impressive interception, the S-400 launch tubes had to open, exposing the missiles. After each salvo, the system automatically prepares the next, sliding open the covers of the reserve tubes and briefly revealing the fuel-filled, explosive warheads sitting quietly in their cells. For a few short seconds, those incredibly expensive missiles are almost completely unprotected, like bombs standing still and waiting for someone to light the fuse. At that exact moment, the fog above them is torn apart by the immense heat column from the previous launch, creating a clear vertical tunnel up to the sky. At the top of that tunnel, the Ukrainian drones have been waiting. Through thermal cameras and high-resolution optics, every launch tube and every exposed missile tip is now visible. The order is simple and cold. Dive. Electric motors scream into life, sounding like an enormous swarm of angry bees. The kamikaze drones do not cruise calmly forward. They almost fall straight down, using gravity to accelerate their attack. On the ground, the Russian crews are still riding the high of their reported success. They only have a second or two to register a strange, rising whine from above and to look up, where they see dark shapes dropping out of the broken fog like a meteor shower. The short-range defenses that might have engaged this kind of threat have already been torn apart by the opening barrage. The main radar is focused on distant targets, not threats appearing only tens of meters away. There is nothing left to stop the drones as they streak toward the open launch tubes. The small warheads on their noses punch deep into the canisters, right into the space packed with solid fuel and highly sensitive explosives. When those charges detonate inside the tubes, the chain reaction is almost instantaneous. This is not a single explosion. It is many large surface-to-air missiles detonating together right on their own firing line. The shockwave rips through the site, flipping launchers, command vehicles, and radar trucks, tearing thick steel structures into twisted fragments and hurling them across the field. In a matter of heartbeats, the elite air defense regiment that Russia has spent years training and billions of rubles equipping has been reduced to a single blazing crater in the winter darkness. Even so, the disaster is not over. As the surviving crew members stumble out of ruined vehicles and try to regain some sort of order, a handful of launchers that are not completely destroyed receive a frantic, almost panicked order to fire whatever they still can before another strike arrives. Once again, the tube covers slide open and the systems prepare to launch. High above, a few Ukrainian drones still have enough battery left and have been waiting for exactly this. They quietly adjust their position, pick out the remaining active tubes, and then dive once more. Additional chain reactions rip through the site, finishing off the last surviving vehicles. By the time the final column of smoke begins to fade, the weapon that was supposed to be a steel wall over Russian-held territory has simply vanished from this part of the map. All that remains are twisted frames and blackened soil. Overhead, there is no longer any long-range radar beam scanning the sky, no missile that can reach out hundreds of kilometers. The Ukrainians waste no time. For weeks afterward, their aircraft and cruise missiles operate far more freely, striking depots, headquarters, and supply lines across the region with only minimal interference from long-range air defenses. The significance of this battle is not only measured in the price tag of the equipment Russia lost, though the destruction of multiple S-400 batteries worth billions of dollars in a few minutes is staggering. The real shock lies in the psychological blow. A system built up as an untouchable shield has been pulled apart by patience, precise intelligence, and a handful of small drones that cost little more than a few smartphones each. From that moment on, every Russian S-400 crew knows that they must fear not only distant missiles and stealth aircraft, but also the empty sky directly above their own heads. That is the brutal lesson of modern warfare. Expensive does not mean invincible. A shield worth billions can be shattered by cheap tools if the enemy understands its blind spots and has the nerve to wait for the perfect moment. If you want to keep following in-depth breakdowns of battles where modern weapons collide with creative tactics like this, make sure you like the video, subscribe to Defense TV, and turn on the notification bell so you do not miss any of the next episodes.